Welcome back to Lagniappe Therapy. I'm Cassie, the Lagniappe therapist. Today I want to share some of the reasons why people don't come to therapy and then how we can maybe look at those differently so that you can go to therapy and get the help that you need. Okay, so let's get rolling. The most common concern that people have is that they don't think that they're ready to discuss some of the things that have happened to them, whether this is past trauma or issues in relationships. We are concerned that maybe we're not ready emotionally to discuss those things. When I meet with a patient and we talk and I ask questions, and I feel like I'm pretty skilled in picking up reservation. And so this is when myself, the therapist, will say, hey, look, like you get to talk about whatever you want when you need. So remember that going into therapy, you get to go at your pace, the pace that feels comfortable for you. And if you feel like you're being pushed, one, communicating this with your therapist, because maybe they're trying to get you to do someplace, right? Like that, sometimes we have to push a little, right? Like that's normal. But we also encourage feedback, right? Like if things aren't going the way that you want them to, or you feel like this is too much, a therapist, my job as a therapist is to say like, hey, like maybe we bring it back. But just know that it's very normal to have reservations about coming into therapy and not feeling like you're emotionally ready to talk about. Part of therapy is working through that. Number two is fear of judgment. This comes up so frequently. Being mindful that I'm not here to judge you, right? Things you've done in your past, your behaviors, your thoughts, nothing really surprises me anymore. And I feel like people who go into therapy are pretty good at recognizing judgment and kind of connecting with ourselves on what that, where our feelings are coming up. So we're not judging you. Most therapists are going to be pretty good about not judging. Another concern is that the stigma of mental health. So this is slowly shifting, right? Like when I was younger, going to therapy wasn't something that was super common, but now I know a lot of people who are encouraging their children to go to therapy, who want this. And so I think that stigma is changing, but it's still out there, right? We don't want to be looked at as crazy or weak or something is wrong with us. The next thing is vulnerability. And kind of like what I said before, we struggle to be open about our feelings. We have probably not been very open throughout our lives. And so to be vulnerable and to tell somebody your deepest, darkest secrets can be really hard. Often I think people think we can manage these things on our own. Like, oh, I don't need to tell somebody this. I'll just deal with it. But that's what I think keeps us in this keeps us stuck, right? Like we don't get out of this. We don't communicate. We don't share what's going on. The next one is not knowing what to say. And I laugh because I have so many patients who be like, I don't know. I don't really have anything to talk about. I don't know what to say today. And then literally I'm like, okay, it's been 55 minutes. We got to wrap it up now. As a therapist, I always have a backlog of things that I want to bring up or talk about. I might be like, hey, look, like, let's go back and let's talk about your sleep, or, how have things been with your sister-in-law? So I always have kind of like a running backlog of things that I want to talk about or things that I could talk about. So don't worry about not knowing what to say. And sometimes it's important not to have anything to say. The next couple things kind of go together, right? Cost and accessibility, and then the time commitment. I understand that therapy can be expensive, right? A lot of people don't accept insurance. Wait times are long, and then time commitment of getting out of work and planning around a schedule, like when you're kids. And most therapists don't have evenings or weekend hours. And so this is a time commitment. And so when I tell people in our initial session, be aware that this is for you and that you are only going to get better if you put time and effort into it. And the time commitment isn't just about coming in and spending the 1 hour with me every other week or once a month, right? This is a time commitment that, like, to trying the skills and to setting those boundaries, that takes time too. Next thing is fear that it won't work. Won't work is such an interesting thought process because, like, why isn't it working? From my perspective, I always wonder, like, was that a good session? And people will come back and be like, I was thinking about what you said about that, just like that, the most random thing. Progress is so small sometimes that, like, from beginning to the end, it's incremental, right? And so you don't always notice it day to day. So it may feel like it's not working, but little things that you do differently, setting a boundary or saying no or sticking up for yourself or, all of those things, you don't think it's working, but like the little changes in your life are showing us that it is. I feel like the last two things go together: previous bad experiences and cultural gender identity mismatch. I know that I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. I have seen thousands of patients in my career, and I don't still see every single patient I've ever seen. Some people drop off, and I'm not sure why. It could be that the time wasn't right, they weren't interested, they didn't like me. I hope that nobody's left and thought, like, wow, that was a really bad experience with her. I admit that it's a possibility, right? Like I'm not infallible. Like sometimes we're not going to match, right? And that's completely fine. I've had people who've come in who've told me about past experiences that are difficult, right? That they felt that their therapist judged them or pressured them or was rude or didn't listen. If you've had a bad experience, I want you to know that I'm sorry, that, that's, I know it happens with healthcare providers and of all kinds. And so, I always want to, validate that experience, that you had this bad experience with somebody. So trying again and putting yourself out there is a huge step. And so congratulations to you if you're thinking about it. Not everybody's the same, right? And you get to choose. If you don't like her or him, you can leave. You can see somebody else. And the cultural mismatch, or, just identity mismatch, sometimes depending on what the issue is, you may want someone who understands that specific. Sometimes you want somebody who has lived experience, and I get that. I think there are pros and cons to each. It's probably longer than this video, but so thinking about, like, what is it that you really want in a therapist? What are we looking for? You might, sometimes men want men therapists. Sometimes they want female therapists. Sometimes we want people who are older, people who have kids. So being mindful that sometimes um, might benefit from someone who's different from you, but you might also want someone who has some similar lived experience. Those are the common concerns for coming in for therapy. I'd love to know, did I miss any? Let me know in the comments, and make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, because you're not going to want to miss another video. Bye.